Hey everybody, welcome to Shooting the with Yankee, and as usual, I'm Yankee. So let's start shooting. Tonight's topic is going to be one that I have covered before, but tonight I want you all to weigh in on it. I want to hear what you have to say about this. And it's whether 18-year-olds should be allowed to purchase guns, because that's been a big topic of discussion lately. What with, I think the Third Circuit had a case about that. The Fifth Circuit just upheld a ruling that said that if 18-year-olds have their other rights, then they have a right to buy guns too, that denying them their Second Amendment rights at 18 years old is unconstitutional. So I wanted to hear what you all think. As far as what I think most people know. I don't think people should have any rights until they're 35. 25, they should be able to start working, stuff like that. But even at 25, they should have to have their parents with them if they go out in public when they're not working. Just not a big fan of the younger generation. I'm not real fond of being around them. I find most of them hard to look at and definitely hard to listen to. So that's my own personal opinions. But I also believe that if you're going to say someone's an adult at 18 and they can vote and they can go to war, well, then they also ought to be able to buy guns. And then some people say, well, then you're also going to say they should be able to buy cigarettes and drink. Well, yeah, they most definitely should be able to. I was able to because I was grandfathered in when I was 18. Didn't hurt me any. I didn't drink, so it didn't bother me. But I think that they should be able to do those things. And if you don't think an 18-year-old is responsible enough to drink or smoke or buy a gun, then they're not responsible enough to make a decision whether they should go overseas and die for our country. They're not responsible enough to make a decision who should be leading this country. So you can't have it both ways, especially not if you're the government. The government is what really loves to have it both ways. They love to deny 18 to 21-year-olds their rights, but they love to be able to say, well, we do want them to be able to vote, though, because they're an easily manipulated voting base. And we can usually get them to vote one way or the other, just whichever way the media winds are blowing. And they know that the easiest way to get people to die for their country is get them young. Get them right out of high school when maybe they don't know what their future is going to be. Maybe they don't have a lot of, opportunities yet. So let's tie it to the education. Let's make education very expensive to where they couldn't possibly afford it. And then say, hey, you can get your education if you go over here, go overseas, and protect our corporate interests in other countries, which is mostly what the military is nowadays. It's mostly a force to protect the monetary interests of big business overseas. So I'm a firm believer, like I said, that the government can't have it both ways. They can't say you can vote and you can serve your country because that benefits us, but you can't have your other rights because that benefits you. Can't do that. And another thing people haven't paid attention to, they think that, if 18-year-olds start being able to buy guns, it's going to be pandemonium in the street. Well, most 18-year-olds probably can't afford to buy most guns nowadays. And here's the thing, an 18-year-old can buy a gun, just not from an FFL. I bought my first handgun when I was 18 years old, a .22 Magnum revolver that I carried illegally for years, but I just didn't buy it from an FFL. So the opportunity for 18-year-olds to have guns has been there. Now, carrying legally, no. But here's the thing. The kids that were going to abuse the law anyway would carry illegally. I know I did. So I don't think it's going to make that much of a change. So I think it's mainly about the government doesn't get to pick and choose when people are adults. If it's 18, it's 18. Now, I would be willing to say, okay, let's just make it 21 for everything. Voting, going to war, and everything. That would be my ideal position on it. But if the government's still going to say 18 voting and serving your country, within 18 for everything. And let's see what everybody else has to say over here. See if they agree with me or disagree. If people disagree, everybody has a right to be wrong. So you have a right to disagree with me. John M. Mandrick said, absolutely. If they are old enough to go fight and vote, why they can't buy alcohol or rent cars is age discrimination. Now, renting cars is a different thing to me, because renting cars, I'm a private individual. If I'm renting you cars, you don't have a right to rent a car from me. I agree with them. Until you're 25, I ain't giving you a car. I wouldn't take that risk. It's too risky, which just is more evidence that I don't think 18-year-olds should be considered adults. If you put them on your insurance, it goes through the roof because they are irresponsible. So It's one of those things, but that's a little different. I separate those two things because one's private industry, one's constitutional rights. Pigar said, should 18-year-olds be able to drive? I don't think 18-year-olds should be allowed out of their house without the parents. So the parents should be driving. Unless the parents have a medical condition that means they can't drive, then I think the kids should be able to drive and act as their chauffeur. Because, I think that should be their main purpose, when they're up to 21, is to do as their parents need. Like slave labor. I'm a firm believer of that for children. Practical Bacon, adults should be allowed to buy firearms. Right now, 18-year-olds are adults. Under the same circumstances, the bigger issue is we need one age for adulthood. Well, that's what I agree with that. The question would be, what would it be? Would it be 18? Would it be 21? Would it be 25 when people are actually on average starting to mature physiologically, physically, etc.? Because, neurologically, you're not mature until mid-20s. It's not always 25. People love to say 25, but it's, usually in the mid-20s range. 21 is usually a fairly safe, fairly conservative, benchmark for when people have become more mature, more responsible, better able to function psychologically, physiologically. So where the line would be is something that's up for debate, but it has to be one line. I agree with that. Full Auto 556 says, hell yeah, my dad paid for 12 gauge when I was 18. And well, that would actually be a straw purchase, I guess, legally under the law. Well, no, he didn't make you take the money from you. So I don't know what I'm fucking talking about there. You didn't give him the money for saying that. I was thinking he was paying. He went and paid for you, not that he bought you a gun. He should be able to buy you whatever he wants to buy you. I think even when you're younger, as long as he maintains control of it and possession of it. If he wants to go buy a 6-year-old an AR, he should be, in a 22 format. He should be able to, as long as he maintains control of that weapon and supervises his child when he's using that. I bought my kid his first rifle when he was 8. I got a lot of hate for that video on the internet. It's on there now. Got a lot of hate for that video. But I think Dad should be able to do that. Now, if you were like, hey, I'm 18, I can't buy this, and give the money to someone like your dad or your uncle and they go buy it, that's a straw purchase. But if they're buying it for you as a gift, well, there's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, you as 18 can usually buy most things. I was 18 years old, was able to legally purchase a handgun as private individual to individual basis, because that limit is really only for FFLs. That 18, that stupid 21 thing. DM Faust says, if you are legally an adult, you are due all the rights and privileges of an adult. Yes, you are, unless you're in prison, and then that's a different story. Fire Goozy, which I think a lot of the 18-year-olds should be in prison. I'm not a big fan of them, to be honest. I have had a couple of them. I don't have any now, but I've gone through a couple of them. I got the one's 20 now. He'll be 21 here in a couple months, and the other's 26. But I wasn't a real big fan of them when they were 18. Not as bad as when they were like 16, but still. They should, after completing some type of civil service that might give them a perspective on the value of life. Otherwise, it should be after 21. See, a lot of people bring that up a lot of time, like, mandatory civil service and stuff. I don't like mandatory anything. Free societies don't have mandatory anything. However, I do like things in place saying, maybe you don't get your rights until you're 21 across the board, unless you do these things, like you're a member, like you do 2 years of public service. I usually like to tie those things to education. Like if out of high school you join some sort of civil corps or Peace Corps, or you go overseas and build houses, or you go to poor neighborhoods in Louisiana and build houses, or help provide clean drinking water, all this kind of thing, and you serve your community, well, then you get education for free because of it. So I love having those opportunities available with rewards tied to them that aren't necessarily military related. I think people should be able to earn free college without joining the military. Could be other things serving your community. So big fan of doing it that way, but mandatory, I'm not a big fan of any of that. I get that sticks in my craw a little bit. Dale Rickety, if you were in the service at 18, you should vote and buy guns. If you were 20 and not in the service, screw you. No adult right till 21. Well, that's kind of like what I just said, that, if you're in certain groups or organizations where you're showing maturity, showing responsibility, serving your community, well, then you get your rights earlier. I don't want it to just be the military, because I don't want to keep feeding the military industrial complex these children so they can oil the wheels of billion-dollar industry and billionaires' pocketbooks, oil the hinges on their pocketbooks with the blood of poor young people, which is something that this country is notorious for. Well, every country really, but especially this one. Ghost Shadow says, they say you're too young to buy guns, alcohol, then too young to pay taxes, get drafted. No 50-year-olds that are not responsible enough to do anything. Well, I know there's probably a couple of them here in this chat right now. I ain't looking at anybody in particular. But yeah, but I will say age is a better indicator of whether someone's going to be mature enough to do the basics. Now, there are some people that will never be mature enough to do even the most basic things. I've got family members that are stunted. Usually it's because of drug use in their teens, because they become stunted at the age where they really become addicted. But it takes those people, even after they get clean, takes them decades just to catch up. I mean, I know 40, 50-year-olds that are just now getting to where they have the general maturity of a 25-year-old. Sorry, I had to take a drink there. I was thirsty and I forgot I was on camera. Got one more coming in here from Pigar. Says, send me back to Vietnam. In Vietnam, I'm a man over there. Here, I'm a child. That's the Jesse Ventura voice. Well, I can't do a Jesse Ventura voice, but it is funny that someone is considered a man when it comes to whether you can die for profit, but not whether you can buy alcohol or purchase cigarettes or a gun. We're more than happy to have you use that gun against citizens in a foreign land, but come over here and, we can't trust you with it. So yeah, that's always found that to be ridiculous. And like I said, I don't know if I agree with 18 or 21 or whatever being the limit, but I do agree it needs to be one age. And right now in this country, it is 18. So if at 18 they get to vote and go to war, then they should get all their rights. And it looks like everybody's in agreement with me. How about you? Do you agree? If you don't agree, or you do, let me know in the comment section below. If you want to weigh in on one of these live chat topics in person, come to one of our nightly live chats. We have them every night at 6 p.m. except for Wednesday when they're at 7 p.m. So come on in. Hope to see you there. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again.